This episode of What the Tech is brought to you by Braintree Payments. Mobile app development can be complex, but integrating your payments no longer has to be. With Braintree, your business can accept nearly every type of payment from any device with just one integration. Learn more at braintreepayments.com/whatthetech. And by HostPapa. HostPapa's powerful web hosting solution and cloud-based productivity tools are perfect for small business owners, digital entrepreneurs, and freelancers. Go to hostpapa.com/GFQ today and use our exclusive promo code GFQ to save 15% off their most popular shared web hosting packages. That's hostpapa.com/GFQ.
What the tech?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarian, and this is the last week Paul is not here with us, but I have an even better replacement. Are you the guy behind Thurrott.com now? Brad Sams, everybody, from Thurrott.com.
Sometimes it feels that way.
There's
a lot of monkeying around that goes on the back end to make sure everything is always working. And yeah, so usually if the site's down, people message Paul or myself, and then Paul just forwards everything to me, and then I figure out how to fix it.
So Paul's been away for the last, month, and you are the guy in charge now. So you've been doing a lot of stuff, and it's amazing, actually. You know, people were concerned when you went over to Thurrott.com last year, and they didn't know how it was going to work. But, man, you and Paul, very similar visions when it comes to technology, very similar outlook on tech, and it's been a great fit. I mean, as a fan of the site, it's been a great fit.
No, it's good to hear. I mean, right? It was obviously a risk on everybody's part because I was running Neoen and Neoen was doing great things, and it was hard to abandon something you had built up for about 6 to 8 years. But I think we're about 28 days away from it being a year, which is kind of nuts, and it's worked out exceptionally well. And I think we're headed in a really good spot. And, Petri's growing, Thurrott's growing, and we acquired IT Unity, and they're doing good stuff. And so looking back, it was a good move, a little bit of a risk at the time, but, all in all, I think it's worked out pretty well.
Listen, it's been a great fit. And you're both equally, you're both the same level of being a jerk. You know what I mean? Like in the best way. I say that in the most in the most loving way. I absolutely love it. I mean, we go out and we hang out and we just bust on each other, for like 4 or 5 hours, and you watch me get really, really loaded on Pinot Grigio and rosé, so it's perfect.
Yeah, no, it's fun. You got to have fun with what you do. If you don't enjoy what you're doing every day, then people can tell. And I don't know, Paul and I, if we both won the lottery, much like you, Andrew, you'd probably be doing it from a nicer location if you won the lottery, like a beach or something.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you'd probably be doing the same thing. You'd wake up and be like, all right, I'm going to go back into the office and do what I was doing yesterday because that was a lot of fun. So that's the kind of the way we look at it.
Listen, with talking about a lot of fun, we have so much to talk about. A lot has happened in the last, the last day, right? Today's a big day for Microsoft news. A lot of stuff happening. We're going to talk about Windows 10 anniversary update. We're going to talk about the Xbox One S that arrived. People got it today. So we're going to talk about that and a couple more things. But before we do that, I want to thank our sponsor, one of our sponsors, and that's Braintree. Guys, we've been talking about Braintree for so long now. Braintree is a mobile app development system. And we know that mobile app development can be complex, but integrating your payments no longer has to be. With Braintree, your business can accept nearly every type of payment method. We're talking about Apple Pay, Bitcoin, Samsung Pay, Google Pay, all the latest and the greatest ways of accepting payments. You could integrate this into your payment method. And every major credit card, by the way, so you don't even have to worry about that. It's simple, it's secure, it's token-based. So when your clients are giving the information, you don't have to worry about vulnerabilities and getting hacked because their information is never being stored on your end. We've been talking about them for a while, and I love getting the emails from you guys. Whenever we mention Braintree, I always get an email. The last meetup that we had, I had 3, 4, 5 people come up and say, listen, my client wanted to implement this in their mobile app, in their mobile payments system, and I put it in. I didn't know how good it would be. I gave it a shot because I went to braintreepayments.com/whatthetech, and it's great. They love it. It's super easy for me. And that's what matters. When you're sitting there and you gotta add a piece of code in. Let's say you don't accept Bitcoin and your client decides, hey, I want to do Bitcoin. You don't want to tear the code apart and you don't want to spend hours doing it. This is a simple thing to integrate. And it's in multiple languages, whether it's Java, Ruby, Python, it doesn't matter. Their SDK is available for you, and they have a bunch of stuff there. Go to BraintreePayments.com/whatthetech. Guys, and also, if you are using Braintree, let me know. I love hearing the stories, and I love sending this to them. They love the feedback about the service. BraintreePayments.com/whatthetech. I want to thank them for supporting the show, for, of course, supporting the GFQ network. So, Brad, today, anniversary update is hitting computers.
It is. It's rolling out. 350 million plus people now have access to it, actually.
Has it been rolled out officially like that, or are people still slowly getting it?
I mean, it's going to roll out, I would assume, in waves.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Where you are.
I have yet to get it on my end.
Yeah, so right at 1 o'clock, my machine hit it, and it took me exactly 32. I installed it right before we did this. 1 o'clock, I clicked install or whatever, download, and 32 minutes later, I was back on the desktop. So it does take a little bit of time, so everyone should be a little bit aware. Like, if you've got a meeting or whatever, a podcast you're doing, like I just did, you probably shouldn't install it right before, but I've got a higher end machine, 32 minutes, so kind of set that as a benchmark if you're a little bit older of a PC or whatever.
So let's pretend we've never discussed this update, okay? Because we've been talking about this for almost a year now. Since Windows 10 came out, we've been discussing this update, right? Let's talk about it, because I know a lot of people are probably going to discover this on YouTube due to the title of the show today, which will probably be Windows 10 anniversary update. What can people expect to see? What will be noticeable for, I guess, the average person that installs, they get the update, they install it, and here's their desktop? What are they going to see immediately?
So this is the update of many things, many little things. There's nothing it's not like when you installed Windows 10 and you kind of had a new theme or experience or whatever, but there's a lot of little stuff. I mean, just literally looking at it right now, if you use the UWP apps, there's now little badges. So I use the UWP mail app every day. When I get an email, it now tells me that there's one unread email or 10 or 50 or whatever. So badging on UWP apps is now available. You can set a dark theme if you're a night owl or whatever. You don't like the bright white of all the UWP stuff. You can now set it to a dark theme across the entire OS, or I should say most of the OS. In a very typical Microsoft fashion, things like File Explorer don't abide by the dark theme because they're not quote unquote modern. So you have dark theme. And then the other thing you'll probably notice right away, which I really do not like, is that they move the Action Center icon to the very bottom right of the task tray or system tray. It used to be the clock in the bottom right corner. Now it's the little Action Center icon. And I wish you could do that move in chess where you have a rook in the corner and your king, and then you flop them. Going deep with chess knowledge.
I'm actually looking at it now. I'm actually looking at the Action Center now. The taskbar.
I wish that you could switch that back. I personally don't ever use the Action Center. I don't know. I have a Mac and I never use the Notification Center. I never use the Action Center on a desktop. It's really just kind of I just don't use it. And I wish that you could just switch that back. And Microsoft being Microsoft, they're not going to let me do that.
So they to me from because I've had obviously, I've had an insider build for a little bit on a machine here. To me, something that stood out, and this is more of a power user thing, was the managing multiple desktops. They made it a lot easier to do that, which I liked.
Yeah, so they've added some virtual desktop features about making it easier to find the apps or move apps between virtual desktops, which is great. If you only have one monitor, virtual desktops finally arrived with Windows 10, and they're getting a little bit better with the anniversary update about how you can move apps back and forth. That's just another little minor thing that they've added. And other things that they've added too, like if you click on the start menu, you'll notice that getting to your all apps is a lot easier. And it's really just kind of refinement around all corners of the OS. It's still not perfect, but there's just a lot of little things, like Edge now supports extensions. There's some back-end work on Edge. Yeah, it's like people are going to install this thinking that it's something, at least I hope not, that it's revolutionary, brand new, and it's really, really not. It's just a lot of little features across the entire OS that make things just that much better.
What do you think? Do you use Cortana on the desktop?
Nope.
You don't? Okay. So
No.
you're on the same boat as me. So
Yeah.
what do you think of the heavy-handedness of Cortana in this update, where it's even more, I guess,
We'll see.
there?
Obviously, I've had the insider builds on my laptop for quite a while. I never put them on my desktop, mostly just because I need a stable build, and I use this thing every day. And if it's crapping out on me, that's not going to work. I'll see if their new Cortana features that are tied more into the calendar and the semantics of the OS work out a little bit better. I'm going to try it. I mean, it's pointless not to. It's not like you lose anything. But when I talked to Marcus Ashe, and he's the guy who's behind Cortana at Microsoft, I said, here's my problem is I don't like to talk to my PC. And Apple's trying to do this with Siri on the Mac. I don't talk to my Mac either. I mean, I talk to my phone. So the question becomes is, can Microsoft get people to talk to their PCs? And if they can't, how can they then make Cortana functional when people don't talk to it? And that was what they were trying to do with some of this update, is if you don't talk to it, you get more benefit out of it. But it's a lot like the Action Center. To me, it's just one more thing you got to check and notify and pay attention to, that I don't find enough value to dedicate time to making Cortana fit into everything on my PC. It just, I don't know, email and Skype really drive everything. So
There, you got a notification right there.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I'm kind of in the same boat as you, right? Like whenever I use my Windows laptop, I have zero interest in using Cortana or using voice to kind of search for things or pull stuff up. However, I use on my phone, I'll use Google Now constantly for reminders, for calendar updates, for search. I mean, almost for everything I'm talking into this. When they implement Siri on the next version of, I'm not running the beta version of Mac OS right now, but which the last time I did that, it was a whole nightmare, and I swore to myself I will never put it on something that is mission critical again. So I don't have a secondary Mac to put it on, but I'm looking forward to seeing how I use Siri on the Mac, and if I'm going to feel the same compared to Cortana.
That's a good point.
I'm really interested to see how that implementation is going to go from OS to OS. I know people that absolutely love Cortana on their desktop. They use it all the time. They do, the calendar stuff. I mean, they're constantly using it. And I know people that constantly, one of the top emails that I get is, how do I disable Cortana?
Yeah.
I want to remove it. I don't want it there. And I tell people, listen, it's not doing anything by it being there.
Right.
It is what it is. You can't do it. So it's interesting, depending on the user base.
Yeah, no, it really is. And I don't want to say that Cortana is bad. I mean, there's definitely people who love it. When I
don't want to say it sucks, but
right. Well, I mean, people use it, and that's fine. I just don't. I don't use it every day. I've never really found the use case for talking to my PC, and I think it's a training thing, because Andrew, you and we've grown up with mouse and keyboards for, I don't know what, I just turned 31. So I've been using a mouse and keyboard for 31 years. I use keyboard shortcuts. I use it to the fullest extent. And now Microsoft wants me to talk to it, but I already know that I can create whatever I was trying to do faster just with a mouse and keyboard. Now, for a generation that's growing up like my daughter, who talks to everything and uses pen and touch, she's never used a keyboard. So I can see where for her, Cortana and Siri would be much, much more valuable than to somebody like me.
I'm curious. Yeah, it's a whole new generation. I mean, the same thing with my kid. When she's 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, how is she going to start using? How is it going to be different the way she uses a computer compared to us? Is she going to look at us and say, "Oh, look at these old dudes," just constantly clicking and using keyboard shortcuts to get to something, while she could just say it? What do you think? What do you think of the Action Center? That the customization in Action Center compared to the previous version? Do you think that's going to be useful to people?
It depends. I mean, so Microsoft has done some good stuff where they limit the number of notifications per app, and you can have more granular customization and clear things and see more through the Action Center. There was definitely a focus in this build, by all means, to get people to use that Action Center. I think they got a lot of telemetry and feedback that said, hey, you know what? I never really use the Action Center because there's not, it's just more noise. And so they allow you to customize the apps and how they appear. And they also, again, the badging in the bottom right corner tells you how many missed notifications you have. So I'll be curious to see if I'm going to leave it on. I'm a big believer. You never know till you try. So I'm going to leave it. I should preface that with build 1511 that came out in November. I turned on quiet hours permanently, just so it would never notify me. And
I've
so
I've done the same thing, by the way.
Yeah. So I'm going to turn quiet hours off and just see if it's any more value add. And if it's not, then I'll just turn it back on quiet hours until either A, they allow me to just hide it, or I don't know, figure out a better use case for it. So we'll see.
Yeah. So here's something that I didn't get a chance. I was writing this to Paul, but I don't want to bother him with this. The group policy editor.
Yep.
A lot of people are pissed off. So I'm one of these people that likes to micromanage everything that my production machine does. So I uninstall stuff. I disable stuff. Paul thinks I'm insane. I still do the old school thing where I'm shutting down. I go in the registry and I disable. It's nitpicky and it's stupid and it's unnecessary nowadays when you have 12 gigs of RAM and you're running these super core processors. But I still do it.
Yeah.
Certain things are not going to be able. Certain things in Pro and Home cannot be disabled anymore via group policy editor.
Yeah, for Windows 10 Pro.
For Windows 10 Pro. It's going to be, you could do it in the enterprise and I think education, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So
they ruffled a lot of feathers with this. And so for those who aren't familiar, it's what you can no longer do with Windows 10 Pro. And I believe it starts with 1607 is you can no longer turn off essentially the ads in Windows 10. So the recommended apps, the pinned apps like Candy Crush and Windows Spotlight. And I think those are the big three. And when you think about it, like those three things, okay, so Windows 10 Pro can no longer turn those off on domain joined machines. It sounds like it's not a big deal, but I fundamentally believe this is Microsoft slowly ratcheting down what Pro is to get small and medium businesses to jump into the enterprise SKU, which they announced is going to start to cost $7 a month per seat.
Yeah.
And they also deprecated some features earlier this year. And so this is the second time Microsoft has cut features from Windows 10 Pro. And that's a pretty alarming thing if you're an IT admin or you're managing a network and Microsoft is slowly chipping away the features of Windows 10 Pro, not only because you lose control of your network and I shouldn't say lose control of your network, lose control of those machines, but it's the fact that you now have to start thinking about, well, hell, I'm going to have to start paying a monthly subscription for my enterprise seats. Like it's a double jointed attack that kind of really is frustrating a lot of small businesses. So I'll be curious to see how this. I mean, the honest thing is what are you going to do, right? If you're a small business and this really pisses you off, what are you going to do? You're going to fire up OS X? More than likely, that's not going to work. It doesn't work in a business. Yeah, like what are you going to do? Go run Ubuntu? Like Microsoft knows this, and now that they've got that the EU off their back, it's like what are they going to do? They've got everybody locked into the Windows ecosystem, and it's like,
So technically, okay. So there are nitty gritty stuff that you can still do. Group policy editors are going to be accessible, but an application like Candy Crush,
sure,
you cannot remove that application.
Right. Well, it's not that you can't remove it; it's that you can no longer, when you provision machines,
yeah, you can't
have the whole network at the same time. They can no longer disable the store, I believe. So what it's really doing is allowing the user of a Windows 10 Pro machine more access to more applications, which, as an IT pro, knows that that's the gateway to either having corrupt machines or user issues. They're just losing just a little bit more control of what their users can do, which can have big ramifications down the road. Granted,
this is
UWP apps should be safe, but
this is big because as a network admin, you want as much control as you could possibly have.
Sure.
And it's a constant uphill battle. I have people, I have friends, close friends, that it is a constant uphill battle of what people are doing to their machines.
Yeah.
And especially vulnerabilities. If Candy Crush has a vulnerability, for example, somehow, anything is possible. How are you going to prevent that? You could have prevented it previously. Now you can go to Enterprise and pay the $7 a month, which is crazy. And they know that they're going to do that. Essentially, Microsoft knows that if you are serious about putting provisions into these machines, you are going to pay the $7 a month.
Yeah. and that's the starting price too. So we don't know the pricing of the other models. So there's another SKU of Windows 10 for the enterprise that has advanced threat protection, which is kind of what everybody wants. It's a lot. Just think of it as like a firewall and virus protection on steroids, and then a little bit more steroids. And so we don't know what that's going to cost, and that's definitely not coming to Pro. So Microsoft is really pushing every business into that enterprise SKU, into that Windows as a service. And I don't know when they're going to get there with consumers. I have a couple plausible theories about how Microsoft eventually could, but this is how Microsoft is going to move all businesses to a subscription model, which they love because, right, it's cash flow. Cash flow is king in the business world, and they're going to get that eventually here with Windows 10.
Let's talk about how I'm trying to figure out with enterprise, right? How do you, if I'm a small business that has 3 or 4 machines at my job, am I going to jump and pay $7 a month?
I don't think so. At that scale, I don't think so. It's when you get into the position where you actually have somebody on site who is actively managing the network, I think is when you're going to start to have to go to enterprise. I worked at a really small company that had like 9 people and only 7 PCs, and the IT admin was also the executive admin, was also the office manager, and was just, we were running pro, but everybody had admin rights at that size. And it was just like, if you screwed your machine up, it's like you got to go talk to her, and she's just going to reflash the whole thing, and hopefully you backed it up. But I think it's when you get into like that 30 machine type scenario, and 30 and 40, which is traditionally the pro area, that they're going to start seeing a lot of those guys having to jump up to that $7 a month per seat.
A lot of consumer level users were upset over this group policy editor, and I think it's people like me that like to nitpick and kind of manage it a little bit more than most people. 99% of people do not use group policy editor ever. They're not going to go in. It doesn't matter to them. But it is interesting that they have removed that from the consumer level, while removing, before you had Ultimate. With Windows 7, you had Windows 7 Ultimate. And they could have probably they could have probably enabled it for that, but now you don't have it. So do you think how soon a SKU will exist for the consumer level that may have these settings?
I don't know if we'll ever see it.
Yeah, interesting.
I mean, that's kind of going back to like, what was it, Vista Ultimate?
Yeah,
had like the enterprise grade features for the consumer.
Yeah,
I don't know if Microsoft's ever going to do that, because I think that kind of undermines what they're trying to do to some extent. But I'll tell you what, I got one email from a guy who, he's just an IT pro consultant, but essentially what he does is he's the IT shop for like 10 different companies, right? They each have 15 employees, making up, rough numbers. And he goes around to each company and just manages the network, and he has a login for everything else. And he's like, look, this is really going to screw up that scenario for me, because if they cut too many more features, like everyone keeps saying the next feature that they'll cut, if they ever cut domain join, and this is how people think they're going to do it. They're not going to cut domain join from Azure. They're going to cut it from local on-premise.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the domain join would stay in Pro, but then you would have to use Azure Active Directory to actually use it. And I think that's actually a pretty plausible road that we'll eventually see them take. And they say, hey, you know what? If you're doing on-premise domain join, you're an enterprise. Start paying.
That's fascinating.
And so that's where...
Listen, this is where the profit is, right? This is where they're going to make their money now.
Sure.
The consumer
this
level.
Is how they,
yeah. I think we spoke about the last time, and I've spoken to Paul about this. We are a very small group of people on the consumer level that go and upgrade to Windows every time.
Yeah.
We are I think Paul said something. No, I think it was Mary Jo. She said it's less than 5%. When I had her on a couple weeks ago, I believe that was the percentage she gave me. Less than 5% of Windows users actually update. So you're talking consumer. Yeah. So you're talking 95% of the people that are using this operating system are buying a new computer, and that's how they get the new operating system.
Sure.
So, but by Microsoft essentially giving away Windows now, right? They gave away the upgrade. Up until yesterday, which I want to talk to you about, because I have a feeling that's going to be a whole storm.
Another thing. Yeah.
I was going to curse, but a whole whatever storm that's going to hit them. when you look at how they're going to profit off of this, like there's no Windows 11 in sight, like, right? Well, I don't think there ever will be a Windows 11. Yeah, we're not looking. There's no roadmap to, okay, well, Windows 10 was free and the update is free, but the next one we're going to charge you. So we don't know what that path is going to be. And as of right now, there is no path for consumer, to profit off of us that already have Windows 10.
Well, that's not quite true. They do profit off of us. I mean, if you buy a machine, they're going to make. Yeah, I don't even know what the amount is, but they make money from the OEM. Yeah. They also make money through subscription services. Like every time you buy an app, if you've ever bought an app, not many people have, but I have. They make 30% of that app.
30%.
And so they do have ways that they're trying to make money,
but not off of the operating system itself. They're not. Yeah. They're not. They gave it away, so at this point they can't come to us once we've gotten it for free and say, hey, by the way, you got to pay now for the so this is a good way for them to kind of capitalize on that on the enterprise side. They know the consumer's not buying it, but the enterprise will most likely update at one point. And if you are doing certain things that they consider enterprise level, network operation, you got to pay.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to be unhappy, but I'm wondering if is it going to be forceful, or are people going to say, well, you know what, you're paying $7 a month, you're getting support from Microsoft, you're getting this, okay, fine.
Yeah, what I think is scarier is not so much Microsoft, but OEMs. They've got to be really nervous at this point, because I think Microsoft is doing this because they know they're in a position that they can, and they're going to continue to make money from Windows as long as Windows is sold in the business and enterprise world. But the consumer PC, I mean, imagine where it is going to be in 10 years. It's not going to be what we're looking at. Most people in the world, I very much imagine, they're just going to be using their smartphones that power larger displays. And how does a company like HP survive in that world? They're trying with like the Elite X3, and Dell is, that's what they're banking on. But Windows has no insight or no market share in the consumer world. So Windows Phone, I should say. Phone, yeah. So nobody bought these things. That's why they were literally giving them away. They buy one, get one free. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with Microsoft in the desktop world. Right now, they're getting their cash out, and they're using the drive, other things like Azure. We all know that Azure is the future of Microsoft. Office is the future. I don't think they're going to lose enterprise. PCs aren't going to go to iOS or anything anytime soon, because you have ERP software that is extremely robust that only runs on Windows and occasionally on Linux on the servers and whatnot. But the consumer PC is probably the Microsoft's most vulnerable point right now. And I'll be curious to see how it evolves. So, because they're already selling less PCs. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't think the iPads are going to eat the world type scenario. But do you really need a desktop PC that's very powerful anymore? I would hedge to bet that most people don't. Gamers, obviously, aside, Photoshop people aside. But like my parents, hell no, they don't need a high-end desktop. You were talking about buying a Chromebook. Honestly, that's like my parents' probably perfect PC. They Facebook, they email, and they use Kayak to search for flights. That's about it. And
also PCs are, hardware's become way more efficient with power management. Software's become way more efficient with power management. Windows, and even on the Mac side and on the Chrome OS side, software is fine-tuned now. We're not talking 10 years ago when the netbook came out, or less than 10 years ago, 8 years ago when the netbook came out, where you had all these, you were still running Vista on this terrible, slow machine, on a single core machine. So it's not those days anymore. Software's a lot smarter, and it knows how to function, and things are constantly updated. So yeah, you're right. You don't need an i7 to do web browsing. You never did.
Intel even admitted that they can't keep up, right? They said they used to be on a tick-tock mechanism, where it would be performance, then die shrink, performance, and die shrink. And now they can't even keep up with that. So the gains in upgrading hardware every year is significantly reduced. I wrote a post, and maybe it was a podcast, I can't even remember, is that the reason I honestly think that hardware isn't selling as much is not that people aren't using PCs so much. It's that there's no reason to buy a new PC, right? Your PC is good enough. Why go spend $1,200 on a new computer that's going to do the exact same thing, just incrementally faster? There's no reason to. So
it's not noticeable anymore, unless you're playing, these high quality games, and and you need the higher end graphics and the processor power. That's a very small group of people that are going and doing this. But for 90% of people out there, it's going to be the same if you have an i7 or i5 or an i3 if you're checking your email.
No, you're exactly right, and that's I think that's why Microsoft is going to have trouble getting people off of Windows 7. Is they have a computer, it works. They try to be really aggressive. A lot of people, I think, accidentally upgraded, but there's going to be a strong holdout because it's why. What's realistically, if security is not on your mind, there's marginal reasons to upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 10. You get some slightly better features, a little bit better UI, slight performance enhancements. But for the person who just checks email, basic user, the reason to upgrade it is pretty minimal.
Brad, we have so much to talk about. I want to talk about the end of the free upgrade for Windows 10. I want to talk about that, and of course, I want to talk about the Xbox. But before we do that, I want to thank our sponsor, and that's HostPapa. HostPapa is a powerful web hosting solution and cloud-based productivity tool, and it's perfect for your small business. If you're a digital entrepreneur or freelancer, they have great deals for you guys. If you go to hostpapa.com/GFQ, you could sign up for the special offer that they have there. 15% off on shared web hosting, starting at $395. They actually have a business level, which is, you don't have to be a small business owner. Let me just say that. They call it for small business, but the reason why they do that is because of the great support that they offer you guys and the great easy-to-use tools. It's more of a turnkey solution for web hosting. Whether you're doing you're using a drag-and-drop web builder or you're using their one-click WordPress installer, you could have an awesome website running in just less than an hour, probably, in no time. Here's a cool thing about them. When I spoke to them, they also offer 24/7 tech support. You can contact them if you go. Let me see here. Oh, I'm getting some feedback here. There we go. If you go to their website and you click on chat, you could do phone, you could do email. You could get their awesome tech support there. Also, money back guarantee. You have a 30-day money back guarantee if you don't like their service, which I highly doubt. Great service, $395 a month starting price. Get 15% off on top of that, which is great. Hostpapa.com/GFQ. I want to thank HostPapa for supporting the show. I'm like coughing and sneezing at the same time. It's terrible, Brad. I have not gotten over this cold.
What you need to do is get one of these sweet cups.
Yeah.
Straight from my daughter's cabinet. It's a good water cup.
Yeah, I'm like dying here the whole time. My nose is running. I got this bad cold from flying, and it has yet to go away. It's been almost 2 weeks now.
Flying is
well, you know what it's like.
Yeah, I can't say I enjoy flying in any shape.
I mean, literally, it's an incubator for all this dirty germs from all over the country in one vessel. It's terrible. Let's talk about the end of the update, the free upgrade.
Sure. So it's done.
It's done. That's it. It's over.
It's done. It's over. If you haven't done it now, you're screwed. Well, you're not completely screwed, but
$100, $119 for the update, right?
Yeah. So there's, and I haven't checked into this, so proceed with caution in that type of scenario. I think it was Edbot wrote up that you can actually use Windows 7 and Windows 8 keys that will actually still allow you to get the upgrade for free. I don't know if that was just a temporary loophole. And the situation, there was some rumors flying around that Microsoft was extending the upgrade period for 2 weeks. I haven't heard anything about that. It was one person got a chat support agent to say it, and I don't think that was. I didn't hear anything from that, so I don't think that's true. But you can try a Windows 7 or Windows 8 key. If not, then you're out. What is it, like $119 or whatever to get the Windows update.
$119. Do you think there's going to be backlash now where people are going to try to update and they're not going to be able to get it for free? I'm curious on what people that have waited till the end are doing. Are they?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those things that if you were going to upgrade, you probably did it pretty quick. Even though Microsoft was, I think, overly aggressive with what they did, I think they made their point that, hey, this is ending on July 29th, and they were pretty cut and clear about the date. So at this point, there's really hard to feel sorry for anybody who missed it. I don't know. I don't think they're going to see too much backlash because if they had a year to do it, Microsoft kept saying for a year. Everybody was saying a year, and I don't know why you would call Microsoft's bluff on this type of thing. And if you didn't, you're out. You're stuck with whatever OS you've got. So I don't think it's too.
A lot of people were saying that, oh, well, if you don't upgrade now, they'll probably do it again in like November, a couple months after, and they'll give you like a month free to upgrade. And every report that I've gotten said, no, that's not happening. This was it.
Yeah, I think it would be a disservice to themselves, because if they say, oh, well, in November, we'll do free upgrade month again, we'll do it for November, then everybody will just sit around and wait until the last one or when they're ready to buy a new PC or whatever. And then they'll try to hold out. So I would be very surprised if they do any of these like offer deals where you can actually upgrade or do anything like that along the way.
Yeah. So, guys, it's over.
Yeah.
We will never talk about a free upgrade again.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Xbox.
You're out.
Let's talk about the Xbox now. This is what I've been waiting to talk to you about.
Yeah.
So your embargo is lifted.
Yeah, it's this guy. Well, I can't actually rip the console out from underneath there, but
I am actually. So I got a chance to see it, and I was shocked when I saw how small it is compared to the previous one. They said 40% smaller. But you really don't realize how much smaller it is until you actually see them side by side.
Yeah, I think the big, and even it is smaller. I mean, it's dramatically smaller. I wrote a post on Thurrott with some side by sides. If you haven't seen that, they're all over the web. But I think the big thing for me is that the power supply is integrated. I think that's honestly the bigger story about the size at this point. Because if you have a tight media cabinet, which upstairs I do, and that power supply was just massive for the original Xbox One. And now the fact that it's all in that console makes it so much easier. Like, that's it. There's the wire that comes out the back just plugs right into an outlet. If you scroll down, you'll see the side by sides, and it's a tiny little machine compared to what it used to be.
Oh, here it is.
And so it's great. I think Microsoft did a fantastic job of updating the console mid-life cycle. So this isn't what it is. I mean, people are like, this is a new Xbox. No, the Scorpio, I think, is closer to new. But this is the mid-cycle refresh of the Xbox One. And I think they did.
People are complaining that they feel cheated and they bought this. But really, this is exactly what they've always done. The first one comes out, and then they release a thinner one. And it's a little faster and a little thinner.
Yeah, this is anybody who's upset. You shouldn't be. It's not like your Xbox One is no longer functional. It's not like the old Xbox One lost any ability. I mean, it still plays all the games. It's still relevant for a couple more years at least. This is just a mid-cycle update, right? The thing is several years old at this point, and they're just trying to make it more efficient. And this is going to be the Xbox they have going forward, right? I guarantee that device is cheaper to produce. It allows them to sell it at a lower price point, increase the margins. Because you got to remember, they stopped producing the Xbox 360, which was a very low-priced console, into the living room, and so they need to get back to that price point eventually. And so they needed to redo the hardware so it's cheaper to produce, and this is how they're doing it.
It's what's fascinating. So when the Xbox came out, the Xbox One came out, everybody was complaining that there was no white version of it. They wanted a white version, and now that there's a white version, people don't want a white version. They want the black version of this. I saw that, and that was interesting. I read a review, and I got so annoyed at this, and I sent you a link, and I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to say where it was, but it was an overall review of the new Xbox. It's when everybody posted it, at 9:00, and I'm reading it, and the cons that this guy had listed for this. His thing was, don't buy it. It's the same as the old one. It's pointless to buy, and the cons were, 4K only works on newer TVs. Yeah, I mean, that's how it works, right? 4K TV will work. 4K will work on 4K TVs. If you don't have a 4K TV, it won't work. Or HDR and 4K only work on newer TVs. And I'm reading this and I go, this is not like Forbes or the Inquisitor that's writing this post.
Yep.
This is a major tech brand that's posting this. And they're not even explaining to the consumer, like, hey, guys, remember, 4K only works on 4K TVs. They're writing, 4K content will only work on newer TVs. It doesn't work on your old TV. And I'm thinking, what an irresponsible way of writing the cons of this device.
Sure. It really is.
I was shocked, actually, when I read it.
what gets ridiculous about that point is somebody who doesn't understand what 4K really means is going to look at this and say, oh, I shouldn't buy this for little Timmy because I don't think it's going to work with our TV. And they have no idea that 4K is just a resolution. It can work on 1080p, it can work 720p, and it'd be just fine. But yeah, that's just irresponsible writing at that point and just kind of misleading your readers who are not super tech savvy, I guess is the best way to put it.
I couldn't believe it. But for 4K content, guys, if you, I'm getting this just for the 4K content.
Yeah,
because I'm getting.
It's
4K
a great
TV.
4K next.
Yeah. Player. So have you watched anything in 4K on this?
I did hook it up to my monitor briefly, and they sent along. Microsoft sent along. It was a Blu-ray that whatever was 4K, and it worked. I mean, it's like whatever. To me, the jump between 1080p and 4K is obviously noticeable, but it's not like when we went from SD to 1080p.
Yeah, sure.
It's not like this. Oh my, because I still remember, and I think a lot of people will remember this. Like one of the first things that came out in 1080p that kind of blew everybody's mind was the Planet Earth from BBC.
Yes.
Like they went, yes, right? And everybody watching like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so you can watch that stuff again. There's similar iterations in 4K, and it's great, don't get me wrong, but it's not the same thing when we went from standard definition to 1080p. It's not the same jump in quality gain. And so there you go. I mean, it works. If you have a 4K TV, it's a great little machine for starts at $299. The version you can buy today now is $399. It's a great little device for that, for 4K Netflix, for Blu-ray player. You could do a lot worse, right? This is a good machine for that. But at the same time, it's just 4K. 4K is great, but it's not some holy grail resolution or anything.
Yeah,
at least in the TV world.
At least in the TV, and by the way, there's still very little content out there. And
right.
You know, every time I say that, I'll get an email from some guy. And he's like, "What are you talking about, Andrew? There's so much content out there in 4K." And I go, "Where?" I go, "Well, you could find it online." I go, "No. I'm talking about like normal people going and watching cable or like watching Hulu or Netflix. Like, how much 4K content is there?" He goes, "Yeah, but you keep saying there's no 4K content." The reality is there's very little 4K content that is readily available to 99% of the people that are watching television.
Right.
So
it's until the major cable operators start kicking this stuff out over their networks. Realistically, it's until, honestly speaking here, it's when the NFL goes 4K is when I will buy a 4K TV.
Yep. That's exactly what I was going to say. Yep.
4K. I want to watch my Bengals and I want to watch golf in 4K. And when that happens, that will be, to me, the push that kind of brings the mainstream into it. But it's a big upgrade for a lot of cable companies to start, because it's bandwidth, right? And so we both know a lot about bandwidth just doing shows like this. And for them to start streaming 4K on multiple channels is a big technical hurdle. And so I don't know how close we are to that. For Netflix, it's easy.
I'll tell you right now, we are not close at all. If you look at the major cable providers and the way that they deliver content, it's the bandwidth, but it's also the encoding, the way that they're encoding the video, the codec that they're using. They have to leave the QAM system, like for Fios, they use, the QAM system, and it shares the channels. Mm-hmm. So they'll have, they'll split a feed into like 4 different varieties. That's why some channels you watch like bandwidth, I think it's like 24 megabits a second for like a really high quality channel. But sometimes they take that 24 and they split it amongst 4 channels. That's why you're looking at 1080i and 1080i, and they look totally different depending on the channel, because some are sharing it. I don't know if we're close at all. I mean, I honestly would say we're like 5 years away, if that. If I mean, that's like on the low end, if I were to say, we're for 4K content. We're not even doing 1080p. We're barely doing 1080. Most channels are 720. It's crazy how the cable companies are kind of falling apart. But yeah, you're right. It's easy for Netflix because they could scale on demand.
Yeah, they have one pipeline, and that's it.
It's amazing.
And so, and which the NFL could make a ton of money, and they don't care because of the deals they have. If they would actually sell a 4K stream on the web, oh my God, I would pay for that in a second.
Okay, so are you a baseball fan at all?
A little bit. My Reds are terrible this year.
Okay, so I'm a Mets fan. So I've lived through this my whole life. But I signed up for MLB TV.
Sure.
Their MLB streaming service. And I signed up not because I wanted to watch games on the go or anything like that or other games. I signed up because this year, at the beginning of the season, they added another tier to their plan where you could get 720, 60 frames a second. Before they were doing 30, so 720, 30. Now they're doing 720, 60. I have to tell you, it looks remarkable.
Oh, I bet.
It's not broadcast quality, but it is the best that I've seen live action sport ever on the net.
Yeah, 60 frames per second makes a big difference over 30.
Huge. And you don't notice it with television, like with TV shows. You notice it more with what we're doing right now. Like something like this, and definitely with any kind of movement, any kind of sports. I'm a wrestling fan, and they use the same exact system as MLB, and their 30 frames a second service looks terrible. They haven't gotten to 60 yet, which they're going to probably within a year, but there's a major difference. So we're talking about 4K. They're not most, sporting events on the internet are 30 frames a second. So imagine it's going to be baby steps for them, obviously. But once they go 4K, there's a lot of money to be made.
That's it. Yeah.
Brad, you hung out with me. We did it in almost an hour here, and we're going to do about 10 more minutes. I want to for the post show. If you want to watch the post show, go to patreon.com/whatthetech. Watch it there. I want to know a little bit more about what you do, which you spoke about a little last time, but I'm always fascinated by this. And, I always ask Paul these questions on how your workflow is and writing and being a tech journalist in a day of, in the era of speculation leading the headlines, sensationalism and all this crazy stuff. Nobody's reporting news, but you guys report the news, which is great. I want to talk to you about that. People can follow you at BD Sams on Twitter.
Yep.
Thurrott.com. Guys, sign up for Thurrott Premium. You guys are doing I'm a premium member. I'm a
nice. Appreciate it.
I am. And I just read the article there that Paul posted on Windows Phone.
Yeah, he posted that yesterday. Yep.
Yeah. If you guys want to sign up for Thurrott.com for the Thurrott Premium package, it's live this fall, but you guys have content now on there. What is this, like a soft launch?
Yeah, so this is a pre-sale. I mean, really what we're doing here, and we've been trying to communicate this as best as we can. The reason why we're moving to this platform and this type of a model, and we're not going pure paywall. Like, it's only things that Paul and I write that you can only find on Thurrott, like analytical pieces and that kind of stuff we would put behind a paywall. But really, ad blockers are a very scary reality. I can see it on our back end, the growth of people using ad blockers visiting the site, and it's growing at a rate that it's like, okay, this isn't really a fad. And it's how do you protect yourself so that in 10 years, the site still exists? Because at the current rate in 10 years, web ads will be completely obliterated by ad blockers. And so this is us just trying to get out ahead of that curve. And we're doing a lot of stuff. Like you can see, I'm building a studio behind me. We're going to do podcasting more. We're going to more things. I went up to Redmond specifically last week to get premium content because this allows us to do that. And the most blunt way I can put it is when you go to a conference, for us, it is $1,500 per person to go. So when we go to Build in the spring, or when we went to WPC 2 weeks ago, that's $3,000 in the hole just to go to the event.
Absolutely.
And what Paul and I very much believe in, we don't want to ever get into a position where if we go to an event, we have to know that, okay, we went to WPC, we have to get 1 million page views to be able to justify this event. That is what we are trying to avoid. And I think we're on the right path to do that. And so we don't ever want to get in a position where we have to write certain posts for page views to make sure that it justifies the cost for whatever we're doing. We want to just continue what we've done. It's worked out exceptionally well for Paul over his 25 years. It's worked out well for me for the past decade. And we don't want to deviate getting into like the 10 hottest apps in the enterprise to be able to afford to going to Build, right? Yeah. And so this is how we are trying to move. And it's right now it's $3.50 a month. And some people have told us that our content is not worth $3.50 a month, which is fine. And some, a lot more than some have told us that, for $3.50 a month, I'm happy to support you guys.
Yeah, listen, we do the same. We do the Patreon stuff, and everything that I do is still available. It's just if you want to catch it live, you can catch it live. If you don't, then we're accepting like a nickel, whatever you want to give to access it. Well, you name the price, whatever you think it's worth. And some people do, some people don't. It's their choice, but I don't take it away. And you guys have great content on there. I mean, really, regardless of the premium stuff or not, Thurrott.com has great stuff on there. And guys, I support it. So just because I like it, just because I want you guys to keep doing what you're doing. Thurrott.com, go there, sign up. $42 for the year. You go to there and sign up right now. Guys, Paul will be back next week.
That he will. He's actually, I think, in customs right now. Actually, I was texting him, and he's like, yeah, the customs line looks like it's 3 hours long.
Yeah, that's what happened to me at JFK, which was a disaster last week. Guys, Paul will be back next week. I'm sure Paul will have a lot to talk about with his trip. If you're watching live, stay tuned. I'm going to talk to Brad a little bit more. If you are listening to the podcast, go to patreon.com/whatthetech. Guys, fund us there. That also allows us to do a lot of fun stuff. We're working on, actually I have to talk to you too, Brad. The next event, I'm working on a live What the Tech.
A live What the Tech?
Yeah, from possibly Rattle and Hum.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
it's a good location.
It's a very good location. It's rowdy, it's loud. The girls yell at me over there. It's perfect. Right up my alley. Guys, we'll see y'all next week. Take care.